you this morning, running late this morning, because I had to take the missus to get her haircut. Or highlights done, or whatever, as they say. But anyway, that's done, and it's time for the Celtic news of the day. I'm going to talk about a fantastic signing for Celtic, and I think that Celtic... Let me just go to... Let me just double check that. We're going to jump into the comments section before we start talking about the best summer signing that we had this summer, and I think it was an absolute masterstroke by Brendan Rodgers to bring Kasper Schmeichel to Celtic. A lot of people dismissed the fact that he was the same age as Joe Hart, who had just retired from football. But Kasper Schmeichel's still at the top of his game. We'll talk about him just in a minute. Sam Mack's in the house. Duncan MacArthur's in the house. Stephen Johnson's in the house. Jim F's in the house. Nicola's in the house. John is in the house, coming in from Tipperary. Richard Scott spotted it's because I was rushing this morning. I was trying to get out the door, trying to take her to the hairdressers. We've got a fiesta on in town today, so the roads are all closed everywhere. It's a hard life, man. Do you know what I mean? It's do you know? Anyway, it is what it is. And she's texted me saying that she's getting her highlights done and she'll be ready for about 12 o'clock. So I'm going back and pick her up. It's fantastic. Anyway, Nicola's in the house. Spacey's in the house. A lot of people saying good morning to Stephen Johnston, who's in the house also. George's in the house. Jim says good morning. Oh, you lovely Catholics everywhere. And Sam Mack is... Doug's having a fairy fit. Peter Schmeichel's son, definitely value for money. Peter Schmeichel's son's definitely value for money. Yep. Kasper has been... When we look back at the result on especially Wednesday, and we look back at previous years in the Champions League where we've tried to be a little bit defensive, and we had Joe Hart in goals. Do you think that Joe Hart would have pulled off the performance like Kasper Schmeichel did? And ultimately, the money that we're spending, I mean, I don't know what he's on at Celtic, Kasper Schmeichel, but with the performances so far, I mean, you could say that the Dortmund one was an off day for everyone. You're not going to blame the keeper for the majority of the goals, but just the way that we're playing out the back, we're more confident. We're a lot more confident this season. A lot more confident. Yep, Joseph winning the competition for sure now. I take it you're talking about that Manky Mob since they got a result last night. I didn't know what the score was last night because I went out and got pished with the missus and a mate. We went out for food, and then she doesn't work Friday, so we generally go out on a Thursday. Lanky the Turn says he's no Catholic, but thanks. Big Chewy says good morning, Baz. Frank says Kasper is a great signing, but have high hopes for the young Finnish boy. I think when looking forward, the education that Sinisalo will be getting. Now you've got to remember, he in his own right, Sinisalo in his own right is an international goalkeeper, and he can working with the likes of Kasper Schmeichel on a day-to-day basis. Now you've got to remember, Sinisalo came in to Celtic. He was first choice keeper at his club. He was first choice keeper. He's came from playing football every week. So Brendan Rodgers must have told him one hell of a story to come to Celtic and to play backup to Kasper Schmeichel. He must have spun him one hell of a yarn, or he must have done some amount of convincing to get him to come to Celtic and be second choice keeper after being first choice keeper at his own club. Because there's not many keepers would do that. Not many keepers are like Scott Bain, who's more than happy to sit around the B team. And it'll be interesting to see how much longer Scott Bain is actually at Celtic. But with the fact that Kasper does have that year extension on his contract, will Sinisalo be happy to sit around the bench for another season? It'll be interesting. It's weird because you never actually get to hear any words from the second choice keeper. It would be interesting to get his take on his time at Celtic so far, how he thinks he's progressing, and how he feels about waiting about till Casper finally hangs up his gloves. It would be an interesting conversation to have with that player. But ultimately, the man in between the sticks just now is Kasper Schmeichel, and I think that he's been one hell of a signing. There's only 26 thumbs up, so there's currently 79 people on. It's a bit quieter this morning. Anyway, Frank says, Casper's a great Schmeichel, but I have high hopes for the young Finnish boy. Tony says, hail to you, Stephen. Good morning to you all. Lanky returns, then says, it's only me that thinks that we played better the other night without CCV and Taylor. I was thinking about that because I watched the game back again, and some of the game back again yesterday. And people have been giving Alex Bailly criticism, saying that he's nowhere near as good as Greg Taylor. It doesn't matter that he's about 4 years younger than Greg Taylor. He's about 4 years younger than Greg Taylor, but people are saying he's not as good. And if he's not as good, you've got to tell him he's not as good. He's not got the experience that Greg Taylor's got, and for playing for Celtic, 2, moving to a different country, and 3, the fact that Barcelona rate him so highly, and to let him come to Celtic to get first team football. He has to be a player in the making, and the fact that he just signed a new contract with Barcelona before he came to Celtic. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of the season. But when you look at the way that Greg Taylor plays, and he comes in more in that inverted role, when he comes into the middle of the pitch and he leaves the left back area wide open, which means Scales gets dragged all over the place. The fact that Alex Bailly played his position really, really well, really well in Italy. I mean, he had a cracking night, and it put to bed the nonsense that there is still the ongoing situation with Greg Taylor that none of us really know what's going on about. I mean, there was speculation the other day that he was going to sign a new contract. Nobody knows outside Celtic, and anybody that does. I don't think Greg Taylor is even talking about it to anyone because he doesn't know. It'll be between the agent and the club. And Greg will know in his mind that if his time's up at Celtic, he'll know that he'll be moving on sooner rather than later. And it'll be interesting to see how long Greg Taylor is out with this injury. The injury. It will be interesting to see how long Greg Taylor is out with this injury, and if he can walk straight back into the team. Because if Alex Bailly keeps on performing the way that he has been, surely there'd be a shout for him to say, I'm playing fantastic just now. Why should I get dropped just because Greg Taylor's fit? He's got to prove he's match fit, and he deserves the place back in the team. It's going to be interesting. Anyway, Nicholas says, doesn't matter how long it takes, Sinisalo is getting a lot of experience. Yeah, he is getting, Sinisalo is getting a lot of experience. It's going to be interesting. Jason says, I don't believe we're parking the bus. We were defensive and we created some promising attacks. Yeah, we never parked the bus. They did to us what we do to teams. And this nonsense that Celtic parked the bus. People need to go back and watch the game because the Italians were a top-class team. They were a top-class team, and they did to us what we do to teams on a week-to-week basis. Now, do we bemoan the fact that teams park the bus in Scotland? Well, yeah, because a lot of the teams in Scotland play with 5 at the back when they come to Celtic Park. They set up like that. Celtic never set up to play 5 at the back, and that's what was interesting about it. They were pushed back. They knew the defensive duties of the player, the mindsets of the players the other evening. The fact that Kasper Schmeichel was getting used as kind of an extra player at times was just fantastic by the manager. But yeah, I don't believe we parked the bus either. Jason, our back 4 were outstanding the other night. Yeah, they were that. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump down to the end of the comments. I apologise if I missed your comment out. It was attack after attack and done some great defending skills and Trusty. Yep. Alex is getting better game by game, in my opinion, says Jim F. Lanky returns. I could see us getting Alex Bailly in January for around the 6 or 7 million. I think if Celtic do manage to get Alex Bailly from Barcelona, there will be a buyback option for a certain amount of money, so that Barcelona will not feel that they're paying over the odds for the player. I think there would be a buyback option in the deal. I can't see Barcelona. I mean, the way that Barcelona are bringing through youth players just now is phenomenal, and I can't wait to the game this weekend. And because Barcelona had a cracking result in Europe, and we all know what Real Madrid did to Dortmund after being 2-0 down. So for me, the El Clasico this weekend is going to be one of the most anticipated games for a long time here in Spain due to the form of both teams. But anyway, I think that if we do get him, and I don't think that we'd go for him in the January. I think that there is that year-long loan, and Barcelona don't need to sell him. You know, it's not as if Barcelona, this nonsense that Barcelona's no money. I mean, have you seen what they're doing to their stadium? I mean, they're playing in the old Olympic Stadium just now, Barcelona. They completely flattened the new camp, the Camp Nou, and they're rebuilding it from scratch. So, to say that there's no money in Spain is pure nonsense. Trust me. Lorna Gallagher says, good morning. Ron Pubcat says, Valley has a release clause of €3 million. And that's all due to the fact that Barcelona mucked up his contract. It was to sign a new contract before a certain date in June this year, and a complete oversight by Barcelona, they said, they missed the date by 10 days. And once they realised, they got him signed on a new contract. But there was a lower fee for him for a transfer, because I think the original fee that was written into his original contract was for 30 million. That's how highly they rate this guy. So yeah, Bailly has really changed my mind since his first game. I believe in this kid, says Jason. See, when you think back to Nico Kuhn's first games for Celtic, we're too quick off the mark, and especially when it comes to Scottish football, because I mean, I'll watch a lot of European football, and Scottish football's not the prettiest of football sometimes. I mean, it's fast attacking football sometimes, and you know, but when you see some games, it's just it's not pretty. It's not pretty, and especially from players coming from countries where they've got more time on the ball, they don't get as crunching tackles. I mean, some of the tackles you get in Scotland, it's you know, it's a bit as bad as what you got back in the 80s. The modern game has changed from that type of football now, but anyway, yeah, it is what it is. Baz, Greg Taylor back in training this week. No way we're paying $5 million. Paying $5 million for who? Alex Bailly. Well, we're going to lose Greg Taylor, and we're going to have to buy someone. Is the plan to get, and I don't want to say it, but is the plan to get Kieran Tierney in on loan until the end of the season, to give him game time? There will be a deal done, but Celtic will not be paying anywhere near half the wages that Kieran Tierney's on, because he's on over 100 odd grand a week. There's not a chance Celtic will pay even near half that. So will there be some kind of deal done to bring Kieran Tierney back on loan until the end of the season? Will Celtic have the funds, or will the manager want to take the risk on Kieran Tierney due to his ongoing injury situations as a player? Kaiser says, I thought we were fantastic defensively. We didn't offer much in attack, but unpumpable. That'll do, Baz. A bit like some of the Hunting Birds. They're really unpumpable, aren't they? Lanky Return says, Nico Kuhn, my best pal. He's brilliant. He's better than Jota. Yes, I did just say that. And Lanky reckons Nico Kuhn is better than Jota. There's one for you. We've not done a poll for a while. Let me just see. Just double check. There we go. I know he's like a poll first thing in the morning. Is Kuhn better than Jota? Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. This will split you lot right down this. Oh, wow. No. It's going to be interesting. What age is player profile? So Kuhn is 24. Whilst Jota is a year older. He's 25. So there's not much in it. Age-wise. There's not much in it age-wise at all, which is interesting. And it's good to see that Jota's current market value is €9 million. €9 million, that's some step down, isn't it? According to this, the market value when he was at Celtic was that can't be right. Can't be right. Transfer market is rubbish sometimes. Anyway, let's jump back into this poll just to see. Well, a lot of people don't agree with you, Lanky. A lot of people don't agree with you. 60% say no, and only 20% say yes, that Kuhn is better than Jota. It was Lanky that said it, not me, before anybody starts complaining. I know that a lot of people on Twitter go, Baz on one Celtic fan's view puts out these stupid polls, man, and he's a total rocket. I don't know, it's just Baz Greg Taylor is back. There's nobody paying $5 million for Alex Baye, but we're going to have to do something, because come January we're going to need a player in that position, trust me, because I don't see Greg Taylor being here after January personally. But what do I know? Lanky Returns went on to say that Nicky Kuhn is my best pal. He's better than Jota. Yes, they did say that, so we did a poll. Jason Lee says, Lanky Returns, I think you may be right about it. Des says, we keep sending our defence up for corners, but caught on the counter-attacks. Baye held them up well on Wednesday. He did that. Luke McCowan did look out of place in the Champions League. He did not look out of place in the Champions League. No, he didn't. Pubcat says, I don't know about release clauses work, but I thought if someone offers the release clause amount, then it triggers the clause and allows the player to discuss personal terms. I think the release clause is only if the club really want to sell them and the player wants to leave. Then they can trigger that. I'm not too sure. As it stands, Kuhn got a better stats in his second season compared to Jota. Interesting. I like it. Wetsuit Baz. Oh, Kaiser, it's too early for that in the morning. I had a stinking hangover earlier. Jason says, I think Jota and Juranovic both regret leaving Celtic, but the money was too good. I don't know about Juranovic, because he wanted to go and play back into European football. I think Jota regrets it because he went to... No, he doesn't regret it. He's just made £10 million bloody pounds in 1 year. Of course Jota doesn't regret it. He's just made £10 million pounds in 1 year. So, and then whatever he got finishing his contract early. You know, so he made a pretty packet out of it. He'll not be stuck for cash the rest of his days, put it that way. But there's not many votes coming in this morning for the poll that Lanky wanted up. Well, Lanky's comment. So I asked, and is Kuhn better than Jota? And 61% no, and 40% say yes. Next up was Jason. He said that Jota and Juranovic both regret leaving Celtic. I don't know about Juranovic. Jota must definitely regret it, but Juranovic wanted to leave. He wanted to go play European football. He wanted to go and play in Germany, so I'm not too sure about that one. I would love to see McCowan get a start versus Motherwell. These are the kinds of sticky away fixtures I think he'll excel. Who do you then drop from the team? Do you drop... I mean, realistically, who do you drop from the team? Pubcat, tell me in the comments. Who would you drop because it's either going to be Rio Hatate or Arne Engels. And for me, Arne Engels plays better when he's playing beside Paulo Bernardo. So that's a different combination altogether. I mean, I think ultimately McCowan's been brought in to take over from Callum McGregor at some point. That's what I think personally. I think he's been brought in to play the Callum McGregor position in the next year or so. But then he's only got a short-term contract. He's not got a long contract at Celtic. It was a strange one because everyone else that came in was given 4-year contracts. Luke McCowan wasn't given a 4-year contract when he signed for Celtic. So it's going to be an interesting one. Big Chewy says, and the comments have just disappeared. Big Chewy says, Scottish football is great. Where else can you see coaches do roly-polies on the pitch? Hiding in bushes from journalists, doing dances at press conferences, and all that from one club. Yep. Can you remember that when he was peering over the fence, watching the game? That club's been good for banter since 2012. It's complicated, not the same style of player, says Christopher. Jason says, Pubcat says it's a good point. Kuhn is 24, yep, Kuhn is 24, and Jota's 25. So there's not a lot in it, age-wise, there's only a year in it, so a bit of a later progression for Kuhn. But then again, you could say that about Jota, because Jota wasn't playing first-team football, it's where Kuhn was. We took Jota, that's an interesting one, because we took Jota from the Benfica B team. It's where we took Nico Kuhn from the first team, and it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Not a chance, says JJB. Big Des says, good job Carly isn't on. Yep. Yes. Jason's niece says, Kuhn has got a lot more upside. We haven't even seen half of how good he can be. Yep, I think so. Tony says, rest in peace, Rangers. Lorna Gallagher says, I voted no, but may change my mind if he keeps playing the way he like this. Both were awesome. He isn't better yet, says Trey. Lanky Return says, that's a fair point, but it's my opinion, and people don't need to copy me. I know that feeling. There's lots of copycat channels out there. It's amazing that you do a Celtic channel that goes out at 8 o'clock in the morning. Started doing that around about, 4 years ago now? It's amazing how many others have jumped on that, Just saying. Anyway, the unpumpable Sevco birds also like a poll in the morning. Jeez, I think Kuhn still has a lot to give, says Grace T. Taylor is off, says Joseph Davison. He says Taylor is off. I think Taylor's off. I've never hidden the fact that if he hasn't signed a new contract to buy now, the Celtic way is to move the player on in the January. So do not be surprised if Greg Taylor's sold in the January. People will say, what are you doing selling Greg Taylor? Well, if he's not signing a new contract, it's as simple as that. Celtic will not want to risk losing the player for absolutely nothing. Nothing in particular. Say it again. Ooh, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Oh, that would have been way over the majority of people's heads. Oh dear, I love it when I do that. Anyway, Paul McCain says, hail hail the Celtic men and women. Luke deserves a start, says Jim F. Yeah, he does deserve a start, but I'm trying to think that who do we drop out? For me, I mean, you can't really drop your captain, can you? You're not really going to drop Callum McGregor. Is he undroppable? It's a bit like when we played when Bruni was at the club. You would never say you're going to drop Bruni. It was unthinkable. Are those fucking birds eating my olives? Fuck off. It's nearly time, folks. It's nearly time. The majority of the olives are turning black. It's nearly time. Looking forward to this. What a crop we've got this year. But anyway, I digress. Kuhn is quicker off the mark, says Joseph. Luke deserves a start, says Jim F. Pubcat says, yes, it makes sense, Bass. I guess Barca want Baye, tell him he's part of their plans, then there shouldn't be many other teams he'd want to go to. I think when you look at his Instagram, he started his Instagram when he came to Celtic. He has put pictures up of him in the Barcelona team, making his debut for Barcelona this summer. this summer. He did make his debut for Barcelona this summer, and then he was put out on loan again. They definitely, I mean, Barcelona are just going so into the youth. I mean, all the clubs in Spain are, and it's going to be frightening to watch these players develop over the next couple of years, because I can't see past the likes of Barcelona just now, just turning into a fantastic team, way above what Real Madrid have got in the next 2 seasons. But we'll wait and see. So yeah, Pubcat says, makes sense, Baz. I guess that if Barca won't buy, they tell him it's part of our plans. There's no many other teams that he'd want to go to, especially when it's his team. He grew up there, so, you know. Lanky Returns says, Joseph Davidson, Kaiser, war, what is it good for? Kaiser gets it. Go yourself, Kaiser. Sorry, some of the comments have just jumped up. It would cost Jota millions in tax if he was to come back to any British team. Jason Lee says, we need to rotate this weekend. Kuhn and Jota, I don't know how it would cost him tax, because he would have paid his tax on his money at Celtic. He's not a British citizen. He's a Portuguese citizen. And he made the money outside the UK. So I don't know where people get this nonsense that it would cost him a fortune, because he's not British. He's Portuguese. And he probably paid his tax through Portugal. So I don't know. People have said it would cost him a fortune in tax, but I don't know. He left the UK. He wasn't a UK citizen. That's all I'm saying. Anyway. Jason says, we need to rotate this weekend. Yeah, we do, because we've got a lot of important games coming up. Kun, Jota and Matt, similar type of players. Yep, they only came here for the experience and then went off to make more money. Patrick says, hail, hail, Baz and our boys and girls. Jim says, McCowan should start before Engels, says Jim. Lanky Return says, Calmac, Rio and McCowan. That's his midfield. Yeah, it's a good midfield, but it's not mine. But that's why it's called the One Celtic Fans View, because we're all allowed views, and they all get as much comment views as we can on this channel. I'd love to see McCowan start versus Motherwell, says Jason Lee. Lanky Return says, McCowan does the dirty work no other player wants to do. And we need that in Scottish football, in my opinion. So then he's a direct replacement for Callum McGregor then. For me, that's what Scott Brown did. That's what Neil Lennon did. To a certain extent, that's what Paul Lambert did. You know, they played that position fantastic. So Luke McCowan is the next generation. I mean, he's 26. You're really wanting him to be hitting form now for Celtic. But ultimately, he's a replacement for Callum McGregor. I'm just putting that out there. Long term, I'm not saying he's a replacement right now before the Twitterati start having a dig at me again, but he is a long-term replacement for Callum McGregor. McCowan does the dirty work, says Lanky. What do you think of that? If McCowan keeps up the start, he'll get a new contract. Yep, McCowan is excellent on the ball. Yep, Lanky Return says, before we sign McCowan, I said that we would sign him. He would be like Paul Hartley for us. Interesting. I'd probably rest Engels. McCowan used to these kind of away games on small pitches. Let Engels do his stuff at Celtic Park on the wide, expansive pitches. Pubcat, that's an interesting one. Plus, I just loved. I love it when Celtic supporters become players. Yeah, that's just exactly. He's one of us. Do you know what I mean? And that you'll always remember. Everyone will always remember the video of him walking out onto Celtic Park, the back in midnight. And we all knew that there was another signing coming on, because the lights went back on at Celtic Park. The lights went on when the TV crews were there, and they were like, something must be happening, because the stadium lights have all just lit up again. And Luke McCowan, the smile on the boy's face, the lad's face, was just unbelievable. You just like, oh, this is magic, man. Absolute magic. And you've got to say, there's just no other feeling like it. And none of us will get to do it. But Aaron Lanky Return says, before saying McCowan, he'd put like Paul Hartley. Pubcat says that he'd rest Engels for McCowan. Jason Lee says he loves it when Celtic supporters become players. Kaiser says, what is it good for? Nothing in particular. Say it again. Well, you guys are forgetting that. Bernardo says Bernardo, Calmack and McCowan to start on Sunday. Lanky Return says Greg Taylor wasn't happy other players got new contracts at the start of the season, and now he's not signing a new contract because he doesn't feel that he's valued at our club, according to Lanky. If he wasn't offered a new contract, that's down to the manager not rating him, and which then that'll get the grapevines going saying that Greg Taylor. And was there not a thing about that a couple of weeks ago saying that Greg Taylor and Brendan Rodgers had a fallout? If Greg Taylor thinks look, 4 years ago, every Celtic fan to a man, when Ange Postecoglou came into Celtic, everyone said the first player he needs to replace is Greg Taylor. And now everyone's saying, you can't let Greg Taylor leave. There's no one bigger than the club. And we always go on. And, there's been better players have left Celtic. Jota, Matt O'Reilly, And if he doesn't, there's obviously been some kind of talks. And his agent will have had an indication of the level of wage that Celtic were going to offer him. And Greg Taylor's agents obviously batted it right back. And they went, well, there's no point, there's no further going any talks. But anyway, who knows? Just see that. Comments are coming in. McGregor isn't getting dropped, either Hatate or Engels. Engels started every game since he signed, barring the Sevco humping that day. So he's probably due a rest. I have no idea. If you drop the captain, it gives the other team a lift, says Joseph. I'm not saying to drop the captain. I never said that. I said that Luke McCowan, in my opinion, is a long-term replacement for the captain. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying drop McGregor, but I'm saying that he in my opinion, he's the long-term replacement for Callum McGregor. And you never drop your captain. Big disallowed. They're obviously talking about the game last night, and I'm not going to talk about it because I have no idea about it. I never even knew the scoreline till this morning. Bernardo looks the real deal, very impressive. That's why we went out and purchased him, and that's why we managed to screw Benfica over and get him for 3 million rather than the 6 million we agreed. Kaiser says that Adam Eder starts again. Ooh, that's a tough one. Adam Eder starts again. There's a lot of people who weren't too happy with Adam Eder and his performance in Italy, even though he was up against it. And it's going to be interesting. Could do. Hatate just looks at home in the Champions League. Pity he doesn't look like that the rest of the season. I've been mischievous before you start. Big Des says T1, he's got a great future ahead of him. His sight for pass and shot is amazing. Arnie. Talking about Arnie Engels. That's Rio's real level, says Jason Lee. The Champions League. I've said it before about Rio Hatate. He wants a move. We all know that he wants a move to a bigger league and a bigger club, as he perceives it, right? He wants to play at a higher level in Europe. And he has to do it on a week-to-week basis, like Matt O'Reilly did. You've got to do it every single game. And there's a lot of games that Rio Hatate goes missing in games. And he turns up for 10 minutes in a game. And you're thinking he just looks pissed off and late and not interested. And then he gets subbed off. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, there's no doubt in his talent here. There's no doubt in Rio Hatate's talent. He's a fantastic player, fantastic talent for Celtic. And we're so lucky to have had Ange Postecoglou come in as manager and bring these players in, the 3 players that we've still got that were immense for Ange and have been completely immense for Brendan Rodgers. And a lot of people said that they didn't like Brendan Rodgers when he came in and the different style of football. But Brendan Rodgers said, look, the first season, and Big Joe Hart said it as well, Brendan Rodgers didn't change any tactics or any style of play until just after Christmas. But people were bemoaning the fact at the beginning of the last season that it was Brendan ball, it was pish, it was side-to-side passing shite, it was Brendan ball, it was so far gone from what Ange Postecoglou used to play. But when you've got ex-players like Joe Hart saying, Brendan never changed a thing. He didn't put his own stamp on it until after Christmas, with 3 months to go to the end of the season. Do you know, it was once Brendan Rodgers seen the finishing line, that Brendan Rodgers started tweaking things and bringing in changes and changing things up. And you've seen the level that Celtic went up towards the end of last season. So I just think that if he wants to do it, if Rio Hatate really wants to get his big move, get his £25 million move from Celtic to a bigger league, he has to do it consistently in Scotland, and he needs to show that Matt O'Reilly did it. Matt O'Reilly did it week in, week out last season. I mean, you look at the goal return and the assists from Matt O'Reilly. Rio Hatate has to do that if he wants to get that big move. And listen, if he does, none of us are going to complain. None of us will complain about it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of this season. Because the last 2 summers, he spoke in Japan about playing in a bigger league. So that's going to be interesting. But I do think that we have the players now at Celtic so that when someone leaves in the midfield, like Rio Hatate, it's not going to be such a big transition. And I think that's what Brendan Rodgers has got this team set up for. He's got it to the way that Ange Postecoglou spoke about it. Say that you have players in so that if a player does leave, you don't miss him. Nobody's talking about Matt O'Reilly this season. Nobody's talking about we're missing Matt O'Reilly, you know, and that's what's good about Celtic just now. That everything that's going good about Celtic is that we do have the players that can step right into any position nearly, apart from the left back, and they can step into any position and make it their own when a player leaves. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Rio can do between now and the end of the season. And it's interesting that a lot of the players, Paulo Bernardo said that Celtic need to play every single Champions League game now, from now on, like a Champions League final. Like a Champions League final, which was an interesting comment by Paulo Bernardo. Pubcat says, Big Des, absolutely nothing fiscal disallowed. Go. I'm not even going about that. Aramida starts again, says Kaiser. Hatate looks at home in Champions League. Big Des says Arne Engels is fantastic. Jim says McCowan on a good day is as good as any of our midfielders. Luke McCowan, and I think that's why we brought him. We brought him to Celtic. I agree, he's going to be a great player. No to KT, says Tony. Tierney is injury prone. I can just imagine what Luke's family is feeling watching his dreams come true and playing in Europe for the very first time. Not just playing in the Champions League, but playing in Europe. And you can't even imagine it. I mean, his mum and dad must be thinking, well done, son. Well done. And you've got to remember, it was only 4 years ago that he was a lifeguard at a swimming pool. That's what's even more bizarre about the situation with Luke McCowan. It's only 4 years ago he was a lifeguard at a swimming pool. Do you know what I mean? Talk about living your dream. But anyway, Lanky Return says, watch Rio join Southampton in January. Lanky, you dropped him trusty after that performance. Big shout. Kuhn put a right good shift against Atalanta, as showed the defensive side to his game, which is interesting, Stuart, because it's the side of his game that he doesn't really have to do on a week-to-week basis. It's the side of his game that everyone was kind of like, he doesn't get back enough, but he played it with absolute precision. And on that note, does that make him better than Jota? Because Jota wasn't good at defending either. So the poll was still ongoing. Lanky said that Kuhn is better than Jota. The question should have been, out of the two wingers, the attacking wingers, who was the better defending player? And I think Kuhn just gets it. Jota didn't have to defend at his time at Celtic. How would Jota have fared in that game? Could Jota get back and defend the way that Nico Kuhn did? Here's a question for you in the comments section. And it's still 61% saying no, that Jota is better than Nico Kuhn. So there we go. Lanky, you're dropping trusty. Rio wants his big move. His passes backwards more than forwards. Yes, he does do that, doesn't he? That's one thing that I noticed about the game in Atalanta. There was times that he was getting up to the park and you're wanting him just to take another couple of steps forward, and he does an old Barry Ferguson trick, stops, turns around and passes the ball backwards. Barry Ferguson used to do that all the time. Rio needs to wake up if he wants his big move, says JJB. Man United done my coupon, useless. Did Man United lose last night again? Or did they draw? Because they've drawn their first 2 games. There's just something wrong with that club, isn't there? There's something really, really wrong at Manchester United. It's absolutely, for them, sack Fergie. Do you know what I mean? That's like us sacking Roy Aitken. I mean, he's just an ambassador for the club. But anyway, he's always been too mouthy in the background. Lanky Return says, Field, yes, so CCV can get up to speed and play 60 minutes. And then bring Trusty on. So Trusty's getting dropped for the game against Motherwell this weekend. Lanky will return. Not Lanky, Cameron Carter-Vickers will return, says Lanky. And just to give him 60 minutes. Good luck to Lorna. I don't know why Lorna. Hey, have a great day, everyone. I'm off to try Sam Fender tickets. Take care. Where is Gemma? Because Gemma's got big news for us all. Gemma's got massive news. She should tell us on the live this evening. We'll do a live that's Friday night. We need to do a live. I didn't do one last night because of the football. Morning Baz, says George. Hail Hail Boys says, just praying Casper is teaching his son to be a good goalkeeper. Casper Schmeichel teaching his son to be a good goalkeeper. Could you imagine that in 15 years' time? That if Casper Schmeichel's son was to come to Celtic, that would be something else. That would be something else. But anyway, we've got young Sinisalo that is going to take over from Casper. Our Japanese players are great, says T1. Lorna's talking to Uncle Short and everyone else. The ones that are left, yep, that's what I mean as well. Des, I've been wrong a few times this season, says Lanky. Jason Lee says, I'm just impressed by Casper staying focused and confident after Dortmund and that resiliency. Yep, 20 million for Hatate, says T1. I think if we get 20 million for him in the summer, it would be a fantastic bit of business. In my opinion, Rio Hatate is our weak point in midfield, says Big Des. That is an interesting one. Hi Baz, hope you're well. Happy with the result, says Stephen. Yep, I am. Street Shitter says Hatate will not go anywhere near 25 million. Absolute no chance, says Street Shitter on YouTube. I think Kuhn is better than Jota, says Celtic Girl. Lanky Returns says, that fucking email just dropped up. Where did that go to? Jota speaks about Celtic a lot, definitely misses us. I've been saying about Hatate for years, he's just lazy in games, first player to stop chasing and pressing. Yep. Celtic Girl says that Jota speaks about Celtic all the time. He's definitely, I think a few tears were flowing that night. Jota chose the money, he did that. Listen, if you're offered 10 million a year, of course you're going to take it. And plus it was his mate that fucking was managing the club at the time. Lifeguard at a pool was actually a gross job. You need to clean up vomit and such, says Jason Lee. It's bound to have its perks. It doesn't actually. I was once marketing manager for Bannintines. Yeah. I used to speak to the guys at the pool bit, and they were like, yeah, it's great. It's not. Jason Lee says that Big Des hate it when Hatate just starts stottering about, does my head in. I'm off, boys and girls, says Jim. I need to drag the car for a service. I need to take mine for a service, actually. Get the brakes checked. Close to 25 million for Jota. Celtic chose the 25 million for Jota. They did that. T1 says nobody's talking about Jota anymore, so he's trying to make himself relevant. Jason, it's good to see Iwata playing so well, says Lanky. That's one of the strangest things that we did in the summer, was sell Iwata because he fitted in when Callum McGregor was dropped out of the team, but he played in the same position, and he was never going to get ahead of Callum McGregor. So it was maybe right that he wanted to go. He wanted to go and play football. That was it at the end of the day. It reminds me of Tony Coyne signing. So Richard, I'm going to jump through the comments. Apologies. Coon's pace is electric. I got an email says Grant Sloan. There you go. The start of last season, we were hunting for wingers. Now we have a few. This is true. Kaiser says Hatate started a left back. Get him back there. Lol. Where can you buy tickets for Henke? It is sold out. Seemingly, cracking night in November. Henke at the Armadillo, the 28th. Anyway, how long have we been on? 45 minutes in the morning. And it's not been a busy one either. But Stuart Ramsey says Kaiser, his only pass back was to the keeper. Kaiser, no, gives me the fear. He gives me the fear. Celtic Girl says, "Hail, hail, boys and girls. Tickets sold in 10 minutes. So there you go. Kaiser Hatate played one game and scored 2 goals. Maybe try." On that note, I need to go get something to eat because I took my medication for this colds infection that I've got in my sinuses, and I've not had nothing to eat yet. Kuhn better than Jota. 60% says no, 40% said yes. So end that poll and we'll lose 1% like YouTube always does. And it did. Managed to lose 1% to the no. There you go. Anyway, we started off the video talking about the one and only Kasper Schmeichel and how important that he has been. When you're back in the motherland, everyone should have a get together and everyone should push up. I'm back next month. I am back next month, but it is only for 48 hours and there's no football on or a would have. But I'm back for a special birthday. So yeah, I'm back. Yes, I'm going to be back on tonight. We'll be back on at 8 o'clock Celtic Park time tonight. We'll do a live, even though it's a Friday night. I might do a live later on this afternoon. I'm not too sure about that actually because we're going out and it's cloudy here today. But yeah, we'll jump back on the 1% or Huns that always gets disappeared. Yeah, we'll jump back on 8 o'clock tonight Celtic Park time, and we've not even spoke about the game this weekend yet. There's a game this weekend and we haven't even spoken about it. So yeah, we'll definitely square ball, Barry. Yep. Fresh orange kills the flu. It's actually an infection that I had in my throat and my sinuses when I went to the doctor, and they've given me antibiotics and some other crap that I need to take. Anyway, thank you for everyone that's been watching this morning. There is only 84 thumbs up. Make sure you do give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We are trying to get to 20,000 before the end of the year. We're currently on 19,442, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I don't care what anyone says because I don't do any other social media. And I do this channel myself. There's not a squad of people helping out on the channels to get all their followers to then subscribe. So it is a one-man band and it is done absolutely amazing. And I am so honoured, and I mean that. I am so honoured to be able to do this and to talk about Celtic on a daily basis. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Anyway, on that note, have an absolute fantastic day to the Celtic fans all around the world. Yes.